Hi, this is Dr. Liza Sahilo from Psyche Electro-Acoustic Opera Company, and welcome to episode 3 of our musical typing journey in Max 8. At the end of the last tutorial in the entire series, which is coming up very soon, guys. We're getting through all the topics that I want to get through very quickly. I plan to publish a musical typing competition, which will have a prize for the person who designs the most dynamic musical typing app in Max and puts together a cool video with their instrument. I will have details about the competition coming up soon, so stay tuned to this channel and this tutorial series for upcoming information about the competition. Without any further ado, here we go. Last week we got our app to control 3 general MIDI software instruments that are built into our computer sound card. Now, we don't want to eliminate this function from our, we don't want to eliminate this function from our app, but rather we want to route all of the information that we're creating in this app to something that sounds better. And so we're going to route all of this information into a software instrument in Max 8. And so we're going to choose an instrument from our plugins palette and route all this information to that plugin. Let's choose a Max software instrument. I'm going to unlock my patch and go to the plugins window on the side. And I've worked a lot with the Big Ben Bell synthesizer, so I'm going to choose that. The first thing we want to do is set up a Big Ben Bell with an output. It's not putting out MIDI information to go to note out. It receives MIDI information, but it doesn't put out MIDI information. It's a software synthesizer. It puts out digital audio. So we have to set ourselves up with a digital to analog converter, DAC tilde. And your digital to analog converter in Max needs an on and off switch toggle. So there it is. Big Ben Bell is a stereo synthesizer. So we're going to send a patch cable from left to left, right to right. Lock your patch. Make sure that the audio is on here on your DAC tilde. By the way, this stands for digital to analog converter. It's talking to your audio interface. By the way, how do you set up your audio interface in Max? Double click on your DAC tilde and set up your input device and your output device. Just by double clicking on the DAC tilde, your DSP menu will show up. Okay. All right. Make sure this is on and make sure this is on. The audio of your patch is on. If both of these things aren't on, you won't be hearing anything from Big Ben Bell. Right now, we're not sending any MIDI messages to trigger any notes, so we're not going to hear anything anyways. So we got to set ourselves up, whereas all of this information, this MIDI information that we've created in our app is going to get routed to Big Ben Bell without disturbing the stuff that we've already built. We just want to be able to switch between instruments whenever we want. Now, something that I'm going to do, guys, you're not supposed to have more than one digital to analog converter in your patch. I already have one set up in my patch. That's the reason you could hear me. So I'm just going to route my output to the digital to analog converter I already have set up in my patch. All right. All right. Because I have I need control over multiple inputs for this patch, which I've set up for podcasting and stuff, and with my interactive logo here on the side, I set my DAC up with a mixer so that I can control the levels of everything that's being routed into my DAC. You could do the same thing if you desire, but you don't need the mixer. You just absolutely need the digital to analog converter for now to hear anything from Big Ben Bell. So I'm going to take output left to 3, output right to 3 right. Okay, and I'm done. Let me move myself over back to where I have space. So Big Ben Bell receives MIDI messages in a very particular format. All right, we can't just simply take the output of our strip note or make notes and bring them into the first inlet of Big Ben Bell or any information from our pitch bend object or our MIDI CC object into Big Ben Bell. It will not work. We need a MIDI format object, and this will format our MIDI information in a way that Big Ben Bell can understand. The output that Big Ben Bell wants to receive MIDI information from is the second output. And this formats your MIDI information into a format called MIDI event messages. And this is the same type of format that VSTs and Macs want to receive. So keep that in mind when we start working with VST instruments. So we're going to route the second output from MIDI format into Big Bend Bell. Let's explore the inputs of MIDI format. So the first inlet of MIDI format is dedicated for MIDI note on and MIDI note off messages, but it wants to receive pitch and velocity in a packed message. Notice that there isn't a separate inlet for pitch and velocity. And so in order to do that, we're going to need an object called pack. All right, and we're going to give pack 2 elements. The elements in pack will tell you how many inlets you need. And the inlets are the messages you're trying to pack together. So the first is going to correspond to pitch. The second is going to correspond to velocity. And all of this is going to go into MIDI format, first inlet for our MIDI note on message. But guess what? We also need a pack for MIDI note off. So pack. Pitch, velocity, and it's going to go nicely in there. Now there's a reason I'm not connecting these right away to my strip note or to my make note, and I'll explain later. But let's take a look at the other inlets in MIDI format. Okay, we're not going to use polyphonic key pressure. We're not going to use, we are going to use control change message. Notice that MIDI format wants to receive MIDI continuous control change messages as a simple little packet as well, with controller number and value all being fed in together at the same time into this input. So we're going to need a pack message as pack messages as well for MIDI CCs. For that, now since we need to pack together 2 elements again, then we're going to choose 2 elements in our pack. There we go. So this is for MIDI note on, MIDI note off. This is for MIDI CCs. We're creating pitch bends, so let's find pitch bends. Pitch bends. Okay, there it is. All right, pitch bend is pretty simple. It's just receiving information from, it's just receiving the output of our pitch bend. So let's find our bend out output and just route it into pitch bend. That's all we need to do. Voila. Now we're not ready to make notes yet. Here's the problem. I don't want to eliminate these program out messages. I want to be able to switch between the 4 instruments I have available on my screen. All right. And so for that to happen, I need to gate the outputs from strip note and make note so that I can either route it to note out, right, which sends information to 3 different instruments on my General MIDI sound card synth, or route the same MIDI information to Big Bend Bell. So how do I do that? I need gate objects. Actually, I'm gonna need more than gate objects. Okay, follow me here for a second. I'm going to disconnect everything from note out so that no instrument is receiving anything, and so that I can focus on routing things. All right. So this is what I'm going to do. Actually, yeah, I'm not going to send anything into MIDI format just yet. For control change message, it's okay. But for MIDI note on and off messages, I'm not going to send anything into MIDI format yet. Nothing is going to our ultimate MIDI outputs yet. Nothing is going into note out, and nothing is going to MIDI format. So pack. Watch what's going to happen. I'm going to pack my information from strip note. Note, velocity. For my note off messages, note, velocity. All right, but I'm not routing anything to note out yet. You probably see where I'm going with this. But if not, don't worry. I'll explain in just a second. This unpack is going to be associated with note on. And this unpack and this unpack is going to be associated with note off. Nothing's feeding into either of these right now. Now, we're going to pretend now that these unpacks are our ultimate MIDI outputs for our note out module, and MIDI format is the ultimate output for our Big Ben bell. Now we're going to route this information with gate objects, one for our note on messages and one for our note off messages. So I have gate 2. That'll allow us to route one data stream to 2 outputs. I'm going to bring in another gate 2. Okay. So our first gate is going to be dedicated to our original instruments. We're going to send the second inlet and gate, guys, is for the information we want to route. We're going to use the first output of gate to go to our original outputs here. In order to route that information, we're going to give these gates a message 1. That means open outlet number 1. And that's going to go here. Outlet number 1. Go here. Okay. So I think we're set up okay with the original. Now our original modules should be able to, our original instrument should be able to receive our MIDI information, but now we have a second output, which gives us the option to route stuff to Big Ben bell. All right. So we're going to route this very same information that's packed here, MIDI note on, MIDI note off. All right, guys, let's test this theory. I'm going to press bubble number 1. Instrument number 2. Instrument number 3. Let's take those back to channel 1. Okay, now I'm going to press 2. And if everything is working properly, I should hear Big Ben bell. Oh yeah, and I do. Let's lower the volume on this guy. Cool. Okay, so now what I want to do is set myself up whereas a button, a key on my computer keyboard can allow me to switch between my original instruments and Big Ben bell. I don't want to have to be clicking on these things. So what I'm going to do is use the same trigger that I use to turn on channels 1, 2, and 3 in these program change messages to trigger message number 1 to open gate output number 1. An easy peasy way to do this, let's bring in 3 buttons here. Here's a little trick. All right. When messages are activated, they also send out bangs. So I'm going to take the bangs that these messages output and have them trigger another message. Let's pick instrument number 1, number 2, number 3. Let's take us back to instrument 1. Okay, now I need another trigger to turn to activate the second output so that I can route things to Big Bend Bell. So I'm using B, N, and M to turn on channels 1, 2, and 3, and to route and to create program change messages on channels 1, 2, and 3, which is, no doubt is routing all this information to the General MIDI synth on my sound card. Now I want to move away from General MIDI synth to Big Bend Bell. Let's use the comma on my computer keyboard, which is right next to the letter M, to select Big Bend Bell. So wait, first of all, let's find out what comma is. Okay, comma is trigger 44. So let's add that to my second select. I'll add it to my key up select just so that they're both the same. Okay. All right. There's 44. I'm going to use that to turn that on. Okay. Let's see if that works. Press on comma. Oh, yeah. Okay, right now I'm going to save. Save. Thank you. There we go. Okay. I don't know if Big Bend Bell is going to respond to the MIDI CCs I have set up. But not all of our General MIDI synth sounds were able to respond to sustain pedal, for example. But I'm gonna send Big Bend Bell those MIDI CCs and see how it responds. Most importantly, I really want it to respond to our all notes off channel mode message, which is sent as a MIDI CC number 123. So having that panic switch would be great for Big Bend Bell. I'm also going to send it pitch bends. I don't know if this instrument will respond to pitch bend, but we'll see if it works with it. All right. Okay. So the first is MIDI CCs. It wants controller number first and then controller value second. All right. So controller number first, these guys. And controller value second, this guy here. All right. Let's see if it responds to all types of MIDI CCs. So what do we have? I'm taking a look at my list here. We got modulation, and we've got, where's my sustain pedal? Oh, sustain pedal is the tab key, and modulation is our keys 3 through 8, and then 0 is my all notes off. So let's see if this works. All right, let's activate some modulation. All right. That's okay, nothing on 3. 8 max modulation. It doesn't seem to respond to modulation. All right, let's take it back to modulation off. How about sustain pedal? Let's see if it responds to that. Tab down. It doesn't respond to sustain pedal either. So we're not going to use it that way. What we can do, however, is maybe use the information from feeding into control out to control the parameters built into Big Bend Bell. Okay, we'll get back to that in just a second. But first, let's see if it'll respond to pitch bend. All right. All right, so pitch bend, that's 1 and 2. Oh, it responds to pitch bend. Okay, cool. Okay, strange. Not to modulation and not to sustain pedal, but it responds to pitch bends. Cool. We'll leave that. We'll leave that there because that's useful for us. By the way, guys, apart from playing around with the parameters of Big Bend Bell, you can also apply signal processing to Big Bend Bell. For example, you can explore some of the signal processing plugins that are available here. There are some reverb plugins. There are some delay plugins and cool things that you can explore. And all you have to do is daisy chain the plugins you want together and send them. Send a left-right patch cable to your DAC tilde, your digital to analog converter, and you're good. If you want to mix between processed and unprocessed, you could set yourself up with a mixer and mix the levels of the unprocessed sound and the processed sound to taste. All right. I think the mixer plugins are available here in the when you unlock your patch and you go to the Beep plugins. I believe this is where I brought in the mixer that I'm using with my DAC. Just an FYI. Okay, so how can we use the information from control out to affect the parameters of Big Ben Bell? First, let me show you what this can do for you. I'm using my mouse to control this. Cool. All right, so let's see how we can play with these parameters. So let's see. Let's pretend we're gating the output from a MIDI device. Let's bring in a gate. And let's see how many parameters are on our Big Ben Bell. There are 3. There's stereo, attack, and decay. So I'm going to need 3 separate outputs, or yeah. Yes, I'm going to need 3 outputs. All right, I'm going to route this controller value. Oop. Actually, let me route it from the number box so we can see what's going on. This controller value to 3 different outputs to our 3 different parameters by using the same triggers I'm using for my MIDI CCs here and my channel mode thing here. Let's do the easy thing. Same thing we did with our program change messages. Okay. All right, and we're going to have those bangs activate 1, activate 2, activate 3. Okay, cool beans. 1, 2, 3. All right, now, like this. So our mod wheel trigger, let's see, will activate the opening of the first outlet, which we will route to one of these, maybe to stereo. Stereo is a very dynamic effect, and the most dynamic of all of these controls is modulation. We have keys 3 through 8 to control things. So yeah, I think that's appropriate. Sustain pedal is an up or down thing. Okay, maybe we can program 2 attack types depending on whether we have tab pressed or not. And we can use our all notes off, although, oh, well, it's not being received as a MIDI CC, so we can use all notes off maybe to create some decay settings. Okay, with a counter maybe, because this is basically on-off kind of thing. Or not even on-off, it's just trigger. But we can use one trigger to turn on many things with a counter. Okay, so let's set ourselves up to send information, route this information from the slider to these 3 parameters. I'm going to create a message that will allow me to feed numbers into my stereo parameter. So I brought in a message, and I'm going to type in stereo, $1. If you remember from our last tutorial, anytime you add a $1 to a message, that means that that component of the message is variable. Okay. All right. And that means we can feed numbers into this. Now, this guy, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if these parameters like to receive numbers between 0 and 127, or if it likes to receive numbers between 0 and 1. Let's see if it gives us any indication as to what numbers it wants. It doesn't say. When you work with other plugins in Max, sometimes it'll tell you what the range of these faders are, but or these pots are, but here it doesn't say at all. So we're gonna guess that it likes MIDI information. And let's see. This may not work. Let's see what happens. So I'm turning on. Okay, Max. Okay. Okay, that worked. All right. It seems like the numbers for modulation work well with the stereo parameter 3 all the way down, 8 all the way up. Let's hear the difference. And middle of the road. So you can change the tone of the instrument by playing around with the stereo setup that we have working with our modulation setup here. Okay, cool. All right, let's bring it all the way. Bring it into the middle. Okay, attack. Let's see what this parameter is like. Oh, that's controls our attack time. All right. Oh, that's appropriate, because if we want notes to linger on, we could just press our sustain pedal. And okay, let's see. We can use the key and key up element of sustain pedal to make this work for us. Let's see if it likes the MIDI resolution from our slider here. We're going to create an attack message. Attack $1. All right. Let's feed that guy into there. Let's see if it, okay. Okay, it's depressed. Down, up, down, up. Short attack time, very long attack time. If we don't like the very long attack time and we want something a little more middle of the road, we can always do some math here to attenuate this. Let's see if we like it. That short attack time, that's cool. I like that. Ooh. That's max attack is way too long. So let's do some math. We don't have to do anything here, but let's do some math before we, maybe something more middle of the road. Because I like the staccato sound, but let's see what would be, let's see what middle of the road. Still too much. Maybe. And give us a little more legato. Okay. Let's take us all the way down. Let's start at 0. Okay. Now let's multiply to attenuate this guy. Let's do times 0. Let's have it. And let's send it a floating point value. I don't know if that'll throw anything off. I don't know if this parameter only likes integers. We'll see if it'll take floating point values or not. See if it works. All right. So we have tab down, tab up. Oh, it took us exactly halfway. All right. Oh, that's really cool. So it allows me to play both. So how about if I do an octave down thing? That's cool. Oops. I pressed caps lock accidentally. That'll. Cool. Okay. All right, decay time. Do I want to mess with that or do I want to leave it? Do I want to leave it alone? Well, let's give ourselves the option of using the all notes off trigger for decay time. And so we'll set ourselves up here. And what this is going to do, what this is going to do, we just need to count the bangs coming from here. So we have another, actually, no, let's not do that because it's all reading from here. All right, for number 3, we can count the number of times. Let's see what happens when I press all notes off. Okay, all notes off triggers this bang. All right, let's just count. No, because it's feeding a 0 into this, into that. Let's see, how can we do this? Oh, we'll take this delayed bang to feed into our gate, because that's what's feeding into this slider. Set ourselves with a counter. Let's just set up 3 decay, counting 1 through 3, 3 decay options. Sending the bangs out through here. Let's display the count. If it works, it should, yeah, okay, it's displaying the count. Good, 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 that'll work. Let's set ourselves up with 3 select objects. Select 1, select 2, select 3. 1 select object, I mean. And let's have 1. Now it seems like everything is working with MIDI resolution numbers, so I'm gonna stick to that. We'll have a very short decay time, maybe 80. A medium of the road decay time. Actually, let's make it 50. 50. I don't know. 95. And then something we want a note to last for a long time so that we kind of have a key holder like you would have on a synthesizer, maybe max it out so that we can play with the filters as a note is sustaining. All right, let's set it to 127. And then we'll set this up with a decay $1 message. We'll feed these guys into this number box here, and that'll feed into my decay. All right, let's see if it works. Okay, it's on 95 now. Oh, I really like that sound. Short attack, a nice defined short attack, but a long decay. That's really cool. All right. Let's choose the last attack. I mean the last decay. So that just gives us time to play with the filters a little bit. Oh, I really like that. Okay, guys, this concludes this part of the tutorial using the information we have here to route to a software instrument in Max. All right, and just to show, I could still switch back to my original instruments, and my boring general MIDI instruments. But now I have a really cool dynamic synthesizer to work with. Next tutorial, what we're going to focus on is routing all of this information without touching this stuff that we've already built, but routing all of this information to a software instrument in another DAW. Okay, so this concludes this part of the tutorial. Stay tuned for the next part of the tutorial. Bye.